American Mary, directed by the Soska sisters and released in 2012, is one of my favorite body horror films. This movie is an absolute masterpiece, and if you haven't seen it already, it is a must-watch. So I suggest you go and watch it, come back, and we both can fangirl over it. Alright, with that being said, let's get into the movie. During the opening credits, Mary is practicing her surgical skills on a raw turkey. Cut to her attending a lecture. Her phone goes off, which causes the professor to attack her with questions. Mary answers quickly and correctly, showing she really knows her stuff. Mary's back home looking for jobs online. She finds a club looking for strippers and shows up for an interview, where she meets Billy. She hands him a resume with all her medical schooling. They get interrupted by Billy's partner informing him about a problem. Billy leaves and comes back and asks Mary if she wants to make $5,000. They head to the basement to a man who needs medical help. Mary fixes him up, takes the $5,000, and leaves. She goes back home totally freaked out and paranoid. The next morning, she gets a call from a person asking for Dr. Mason. Then later, the woman who called shows up to her house, all Betty booped out. She explains that one of her friends wants a procedure done that no one else would do. Beatrice convinces Mary with lots of money. They meet at a veterinarian clinic where she meets the girl. Mary doesn't know what Ruby wants done, so Ruby explains that no one looks at dolls in a sexual manner because they don't have all the right parts.
Take these off and seal up this as much as possible. Take off the extra bits, too.
Mary then proceeds with the surgery. The next day, Mary is doing her residency program at the hospital. While on her break, Beatrice was waiting by her car to give Mary a present from Ruby. She spots one of the doctors watching. While she heads back, a doctor invites her for drinks with other surgeons, and of course she agrees. Later that night, she checks out Ruby's page for surgical updates and stumbles on a body modification website. She gets creeped out and shuts the laptop. Mary meets the other surgeons in the stunning dress that Ruby gifted her. She talks to the Dr. Grant until she starts to feel a little woozy. He escorts her to the back room. And I think we all know what is going to happen next, so there's no need to discuss it. She wakes up the next morning and quickly sneaks out. Wasting no time, she meets back with Billy asking if he wants to make $5,000. Laying down on the table is Dr. Grant. Mary explains to him that she quit med school and that she didn't go into prostitution since he thought so because he saw her talking to Beatrice. She tells him that she will be practicing a new line of work, body modification, on him. While waiting on a sidewalk, Mary is approached and questioned about the disappearance of Dr. Grant by an investigator. She denies any knowing of his disappearance. Cut to Billy sitting down watching the girls perform, then starts to imagine Mary on stage. Dude has a little crush. Mary appears. They have some small talk. She brings up the investigator and Billy asks if she wants him to take care of it, but she denies. Mary leaves with Beatrice to go to Ruby's place for another gift, a card with some fancy ladies' names on it who want to get work done by Mary. The sisters go meet with Mary at Billy's club, and fun fact, these lovely ladies are the directors of this film. Pretty cool, huh? They discuss how she's pretty famous in the body modification community. Bloody Mary is what they call her. Then they explain what they would like to have done.
We want you to take off our left arms and exchange them with one another.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Mary tells Billy she needs help for the job, so he sets her up with someone he knows. Billy is seen beating someone up, but we can't tell who it is. Later that night, Mary pays a visit to Dr. Grant to take some photos of his not-so-voluntary modifications for her new website. All of a sudden, she gets hit down by an officer. He takes Dr. Grant down, but Mary gets back up and beats the officer to death. Grant tries to make an escape, but he's ill-equipped. Cut to Ruby and her husband. She finally shows him her healed body. Clearly, he wasn't happy about it. While this is going on, Mary and her bodyguard, Lance, are eating at Billy's club, and they share a rather sweet conversation.
And then he leaves her there to die. I find her 3 days later. She's in the hospital for 4 fucking months. What I wouldn't give to have known you back then when I found that little motherfucker. Don't you ever devalue what you do, Mary. You make sure they deserve it, and don't waste a minute of your time thinking about them after you're done.
Mary packs up and moves into her new home. This line of work is really paying well. At her new place, the detective pays a visit and tells Mary Dr. Welsh is now missing too. He also tells her about the sex parties they hosted and the videotapes of the girls. Cut to Billy watching the tape of Mary. We know now Billy was involved with Welch's disappearance. Mary goes to talk to Billy but walks in on him with another girl. She asks him if he knows anything about Dr. Welsh's whereabouts. He comes clean and she asks if he found the tape of her. He says no. Billy continues to fantasize about Mary, but in this daydream, Mary stabs him with a scalp. Billy definitely has a crush on her, but is also scared of her too. The next night, Mary returns to the club to talk to Billy. She asks him if he was afraid of her. He assures her he is not. Then he tells her Beatrice quit. She stopped coming in, and she doesn't answer any of his calls. Then he asks her if she wants to go on a road trip to LA. Mary tells him she'll think about it, then heads home. Mary gets multiple calls from Beatrice and finally answers one. She's crying on the other end. We see her laying down, covered in blood. She warns her about Ruby's husband. While on the call, Mary is stabbed by him. She tries to fight back and ends up killing him in the process. She crawls to the other room and attempts to stitch herself up, but sadly succumbs to her injuries. And we get this beautiful death scene. The ending is very well done, but also so disappointing, only because Ruby's husband is the one to kill Mary, someone who wasn't even a part of the story, and Mary didn't even know. Other than that, this movie is great, with an awesome protagonist we get attached to, and even though she fell down a path of murderous behavior, we still root for her. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you really like this video, subscribe, because there's more to come. Till then.